ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् अखण्डं सच्चिदानन्दम् अवाङ्मनसगोचरम् आत्मानम् अखिलाधारम् आश्रये भीष्टसिद्धये अर्थोतोऽप्यद्वयानन्दान् अतीतद्वैतभानतः गुरूणाराध्य वेदान्त सारं वक्ष्ये यथामतिः. So last time we were seeing, just started, about the eightfold practice. Yoga as an aid for Vedanta. Okay. Asyangani yama niyama asana pranayama pratyahara dharana dhyana samadhi. These are the 8 limbs of yoga. Okay. These are basically meant not as a mere exercise system. That is a problem, because yoga has got so fragmented today that we only do the asana pranayama practice. Okay. It's actually Ashtanga yoga. Now when I say Ashtanga yoga, people, especially here if you are those who are into yoga, will think of Pattabhi Jois and his practice. Now Pattabhi Jois and his practice is part of Ashtanga yoga. Nobody says no to that. But Ashtanga yoga means the practice of yoga including all the 8 limbs. Not just asana and pranayama. So the 8-limbed practice becomes very, very important. Okay. So incomplete. It starts with a value structure, yama niyama. Why? Because yama niyama, that keeps your mind under conflict. Remember, we are yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Mastery of the mind is yoga. So if you are talking of mastery of the mind, you have to start with the mind. The body, prana, etc. is used as an aid to master the mind. But mastery of the mind starts here. Therefore, yama niyamaha starts with ahimsa. I will not deliberately hurt someone. Kayena, vacha, manasa, all of it. Ahimsa. So, it becomes what? Now, sometimes ahimsa is overstated. Okay, remember, all values are universal in content but limited in its application. Okay. People are very often quote ahimsa paramo dharma, etc. Forgetting the second half. Dharmo himsas tataivacha. For the sake of dharma, even himsa should be considered paramo dharma. But with our fight for independence, the overemphasis that was given on ahimsa, especially afterwards. Everyone said ahimsa got us the freedom. Yeah, in a way true, ahimsa had a big, huge role under Gandhiji. I would also say he weaponized ahimsa, okay. Therefore, it is true. But they also knew one thing. If they are not going to deal with Gandhiji, you will have to deal with Subhash Chandra Bose. And his call in 1945 for the Indian army to mutiny against the British was very frightening for them. They remembered the 1857 uprising. And in 1945, the Indian army was full of battle-hardened veterans after the World War II. If they rose up against the empire, there is no way the empire or anything else would have survived. They knew, or they were afraid that there will be a complete slaughter, because that's what they went and did everywhere anyway. Therefore, to prevent that, they said it's easier to deal with Gandhiji. And the Congress party will get what they want, which is true. They got their vote, including intelligence reports about Subhash Chandra Bose. 5 years after independence, they were still sending it to Britain. Anyway, that apart, that's a political statement. Ahimsa as a value. There will be areas where it will work, there will be areas where it will not work. Okay? Gandhiji advocated it will work against the Nazis. In fact, he had this to advise the British government not to resist the Nazis. It wouldn't have worked. How will it work? Yeah. What were the poor Jews, women and children doing when they were sent to the gas chambers? They were not resisting or fighting or anything like that. Therefore, ahimsa is limited in its approach. It's a value because we are capable of himsa. Because human beings are capable of himsa, ahimsa has to be given as a value. What do you mean? I mean simple. We are all capable of violence, of himsa. Don't say you are not. To all those who think they are not, what if your daughter is being attacked by a man and there is a stick or a knife lying around? What will you do? You will naturally be violent. Don't say, no, I will plead with him, etc. Your instinct will take over. You will be violent. Unless you are a big coward. Therefore, because we are capable of it, we have to acknowledge it, own it up, and have the value of ahimsa, that I will not unnecessarily hurt somebody by thought, word, or deed. It's important to see that. Yeah. No emotional blackmailing. Yeah. That's also part of ahimsa. Yeah. No cutting words. Yeah. Himsa. If you have to say something, say it nicely. Yeah. Even in your words, satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, hitam bruyat. Say what is the truth. Say what is helpful. Say it in a manner that the people can hear it. Hitam. Okay, in that manner. Therefore, ahimsa. And the next value is naturally satyam, it goes together. To live by integrity. To live by what I know. My thought, word and deed is in harmony. And it has to be in harmony. How can it be other way around? Yeah. That means whatever I say is in harmony with my thought. Whatever I am thinking, I don't have to say. If I think somebody is an idiot, I don't have to go and tell him you are an idiot. But if I am saying something, it will be in harmony with what my thought is. And I will say it in a nice manner. I don't have to say he is an idiot. I can say he is not the most of the intellectual people around. Yeah. Put it nicely. Yeah. Or put it that he has to develop some street smarts. Okay. Or he has to work on something. So to be able to put it nicely. Therefore, ahimsa and satya vachanam goes together. There is something. To live by integrity. And now the pandemic is over. We are at an endemic stage. A lot of things happening. We all know about hygiene. In fact, we had an overdose of it during the pandemic. But my local Belpuri wala is calling me, every time I pass up and down. What about that? But Swamiji, my Belpuri wala is clean. Yeah. Have you seen his nails? Does he use boiled water for making chutney or pani puri? So we don't always live by what we know. And if you don't live by what we know, you create an unnecessary gap between the knower and the doer, an unnecessarily split. And then you will find it difficult to live by what you know. So even if you know Vedanta, it doesn't get reflected in your life because of this knower-doer split. That is because of your lifestyle, of lack of integrity. And people mistake it as, I don't have experience, this, that. It's got nothing to do with that. It has got something to do with your integrity. Yeah. So if you live a life of integrity, automatically these things will happen. What you know will flow through into your life. Because that's how you are lived. You are lived by what you know. Satyam, satya vachanam, it becomes important. Okay. Asteyam. Now, why do you have to put some value of asteyam? None of us are going to rob some people. No, we don't. But what about using somebody's ideas without acknowledging the person? The West lectures to us on intellectual property rights. There was this Dr. Thatte in Sion Hospital. Now, this Dr. Thatte, he had developed some special techniques for hand reconstruction. If you had an industrial accident or anything and you had crushed your hands, etc., There are some interesting techniques he had developed. And every year 2 Americans would come and learn from him. They would do an internship with him and learn. After about 10 years, in the books, in the beginning it was referred to as Dr. Thatte's inventions. But after about 10 years, they replaced Dr. Thatte's name with the first student who learned under him, because he is American. And then you lecture to us about intellectual property rights. Hey, in India we didn't bother about intellectual property rights. We said the Veda belongs to one who masters it with love. But we always acknowledged our sources. In fact, even now, from the Lord onwards, we will acknowledge Sadashiva Samarambham. We always acknowledge the sources. Not doing that would be to be thievery, stealing. You are stealing something. No? Yeah. You are stealing something. Because you are using something without acknowledging the source of it. You think Pythagoras' theorem was invented by Pythagoras? It is used in our temple construction all the time. After this text, I am going to do Tarka Sangraha. The first atomic theory, 2600 BC. India. I can go on and on. That's the aim. The aim is to acknowledge sources. Not to do that is part of being a thief. Being a thief. Yeah. It's not about intellectual property rights. It's about a simple common sense, simple emotional thing of doing what has to be done. Yeah. Aste. Then we will come to the next value of brahmacharya.